Hi, everybody, and welcome back with us. We are once again with Dr. Hart, the founder, chairman, and owner of the Biocybernaut Institute. Dr. Hart, thanks so much for being here.
Doug, it's always a delight to talk with you. We always have so much fun.
Oh, I've been looking forward to this all day. So, Dr. Hart, a question came in. So, on our alumni group, and for those of you that might be catching this on YouTube or somewhere else, we actually have a very active alumni network and alumni group for graduates. And a question came in, and Dr. Hart, I thought this would be a good one for you to address because I'm sure a lot of people have this. And I'm just going to read it the way it's written. And the question says, is TV affecting frequencies in the brain? And should I restrict TV watching?
Really good questions. And let me give you a little historical perspective. In the mid 80s, a dear friend of mine, Gunnar Hertig, and his wife moved from California to Japan, and he was going to head up a joint venture between Fairchild and Hitachi, and which he did. His wife, when they were back visiting in the US the next time, commented on how rapidly the scenes changed on Japanese television compared to American television. And so, like, if somebody is moving an object across the screen, you see it here, and then it breaks, and then you see it here, and then you see it here, and you don't see the continuity of movement that exists in real life. And she found that it was mentally agitating for the scenes to change so quickly, more quickly than they did in the US. Well, it turns out that no child under 2 should ever see a television set that's turned on, because the scene changes are rapid. If a ball is thrown across the room, you see it, maybe the hand go like this, then the ball's in the air, and then and then the next scene is it breaks the window, and you don't see any of the movement in between. Well, it turns out that the young child's brain under 2 is in the process of forming its understanding of the causal nature of our reality. And to break up the visual in that way disrupts a little child's formation of causality. I have seen people suggest that this could be a contributor to autism. And so the idea that we have, of course, there are other causes, some of which we won't mention, but the idea that it's important to have a child under 2 not see a television is, something that parents would beneficially adopt. Now, I have a theory about there've been studies showing that zombieing out in front of the TV will increase slower frequencies in the brain, and certainly as you go toward drowsiness, this will occur. And so it turns out that the textbooks on brainwaves, from the very beginning, Dr. Hansberger discovered the existence of electrical activity in the brain back in 1908. He thought it was the basis of ESP. In fact, he was looking for the basis of ESP when he was doing his research that discovered alpha waves, which are neither the biggest nor the fastest, nor they're not the fastest, they're not the slowest. So in any kind of ordering in frequency where you go delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma, alpha's not at the beginning, it's not at the end, but he found it first because it's typically the biggest. He did really good research on this for 10 years before he first published in 1918. And he did find that high anxiety people produced lower alpha waves. That's something we'll talk about later. But textbooks then were written all the way through 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and they showed that delta was 0 to 4 cycles a second, theta was 4 to 7, then there was a gap, alpha was 8 to 13, beta was 13 to 25, some people say 40, and from there on up to over 100 is gamma. And it was continuous except for that 1 hertz gap between 7 and 8. And so all the textbooks on brainwaves had showed that gap. Now, I often see people who have what we call Schumann resonance brainwaves in the range between 7 and 8. Now, when we look at the fact that the textbooks up until about the mid 50s showed a gap, I think this is a theory that the intrusion of television into most homes in the Western world by the mid 50s began to alter the brainwaves of people such that many people now show brainwaves between 7 and 8, which in the early years of brainwave recording, there was a gap. Human brains didn't operate in that frequency. So, and I actually have another sort of fun theory about why human brains did not operate in that frequency. It turns out that the Schumann resonance frequency is 7.83. It's, if you take a big organ pipe and you take a little organ pipe, the deeper note is going to be produced by the larger pipe. Well, the cavity between the surface of the Earth, the bottom of the ionosphere, forms a spherical resonant cavity, and a lightning strike will inject all kinds of frequencies into this cavity, and the ones that are matched in wavelength to the size of the cavity will propagate thousands of kilometers without any significant attenuation. So here you have an early hominid walking across the plains of Africa, and up north in the Nile Delta, there's a big electrical storm. Lightning strikes are injecting frequencies, and if that hominid's brain were to have functioned in that 7 to 8 hertz range, maybe he or she would bliss out, going, and be just in rapture with this frequency that's coming in from Mother Earth. But that rapture could well cause the hominid to miss the crack of a twig, which could signal the approach of a hyena or a leopard. And so a hominid's brain that operated in the Schumann frequency range would be less likely to make it into the next generation. They'd be eaten. And so there'd be a selection pressure to exclude from propagation, from procreation, any hominid that brain operated in the Schumann frequency. So now we don't experience a lot of leopards and hyenas, threatening us when we're watching TV or walking down the street. And so human brains have now begun to produce. Not everybody does, but I see maybe 20% of the people that come to Biocybernaut now produce these what we call Schumann waves between 7 and 8 cycles per second. And as an interesting, shall we say, coincidence, because it is Mother Earth's frequency, the man I know who has the biggest Schumann, he's a Polish man, and he's done a number of trainings at Biocybernaut. He is the biggest Schumann guy I know, and he happens to run 4 large recycling companies, which of course are very Mother Earth friendly. So some interesting speculations here.
Absolutely fascinating. And I know talking to you before, Dr. Hart, you were talking about, do we as adults, do we regulate our TV watching?
Well, there are several reasons to do that. One, it's mainstream media. And we know it's not even been concealed very well that they're doing enormous amounts of censorship right now. And so selective information. So just in terms of preserving your information from manipulation, it might be good to limit mainstream media of all types. But aside from that, the idea that somebody would veg out, and whether it's movies or television, there, of course, what you expose your brain to, your brain will become good at. And I think, what is it? Everything in moderation. And one of my mottos is everything in moderation, but that includes moderation. And so if you were not occasionally having an excess of binge TV watching or binge whatever, you would be guilty of being immoderately moderate. And so to avoid that, be moderate, but it's occasionally probably wise to binge out.
You can binge out on Dr. Hart's talks. We have several here, which would be fantastic. Oh, Dr. Hart, it must be so fascinating for you to be able to see over the decades different brainwave patterns and how they've adapted and how times have changed in different people. So I wanted to thank you on behalf of all of us for taking the time out to be with us today. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Doug. It's always wonderful and fun to talk with you.
Hi, I'm Tony Robbins. Listen, if you are looking to improve your brain, your psyche, your ability, your emotions, your ability to really maximize your performance, and you want to really dig into your brain, my dear friend, Dr. Jim Hart, and his Biocybernaut program is extraordinary. I've been through it myself. My wife Sage has, members of my family have, and we found it to be truly extraordinary. But it is not for the faint at heart. Unless you're dead serious about really taking things to the next level, don't bother. We went through the Alpha program designed to maximize your ability to create alpha waves. And it was challenging and it was incredibly rewarding. And I'd recommend it to anybody serious about improving the quality of their lives or including the quality of their family lives as well. So check out Cybernaut, check out Dr. Jim Hart. And if you do, I think you'll be really, really pleased. And the entire time you are learning to think and how you think these electrodes create sounds. And you learn how to put yourself in the zone of alpha. But it's a bitch. It's horrible. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody that wants easy experiences, but I'd recommend it to anybody that wants to grow immensely. And by the first day, I'm like, who do I got to shoot to get out of this thing? Oh, it's me. I'm the one that did this shit. Right? But by the end of the week, all three of us were able to go into this state of alpha. And if you're familiar with alpha, the best way I can describe alpha is there's no problem that can't be solved in alpha. Because every problem that we have was created by us.
Thank you for being here and absorbing this information about the science of brainwaves and about the stories of people whose lives have been beneficially altered, improved by doing brainwave training at Biocybernaut. And now I'm reaching out to you to invite you to come and be a part of the Biocybernaut adventure. Biocybernauts are to inner space what astronauts are to outer space. So come and adventure with us. And if you'd like to leave a comment on the videos, you can do that, or there's a link you can click if you'd like to learn more. We welcome you to Biocybernaut.